Tony, why is it important to have integrated marketing?
Well, the internet has become the main driver of integration, and it's because it can do so many different things. And what you want with your advertising is you want to make as many contacts, as many touch points, as they say, with the consumer.
Right.
And the internet allows you to do this much more efficiently than you've ever been able to do it before.
But then, Tony, in South Africa, the argument is that the penetration rate for internet users is still very low in South Africa. Now, then the question arises, would it be effective enough in a South African perspective?
Can I answer that?
Yes,
because
please.
I think what you should take into account as well is when you talk about online, it's not necessarily just online that you'll be talking about, it's digital as a whole, because it's not just the internet. You should view mobile in the same light. So it's another touch point, and you use your mobile phone for so much nowadays. And if you think about the South African population, how many people do you know who don't have a cell phone? So if you find that you can use mobile, you will find that you can reach that many more people. So online, yes, is important. Internet is important, but it's not just that in isolation. It becomes a whole digital gambit. I don't know if you agree with me.
Yes, but I'd like to add one thing, and that is that the laptop version, the laptop access, is surprisingly big. And they're talking now about over 7 million people in this country who have internet access. Now, that's only a small percentage of the total population, but it's more than a country like Belgium. So it's a big enough bunch of people to be of interest to marketers on its own.
But then how exclusive is that club of 7 million in a country where you compare, as you're saying, rightfully so, we have plus minus 45 million people in this country. How wide is that group of 7 million?
Well, people used to say, well, the internet was just for affluent whites. But I mean, 7 million is a lot more than the white population of the country. So it's expanding by, like, every couple of months they come up with a new number. It seems to add another 1 million people onto it. This is firstly a gadget-crazy country, so people go for these things in a big way. And secondly, as Virginia said, the access point to the internet for most people will be their cell phones. And we've already got more cell phones than people in this country.
Virginia, are we maximising the platform then?
No, not at this stage, and I think that will come in time. It's a very new medium for all of us still in this country, and I think that you still have a lot of advertisers or marketers who need to get to a lot bigger group of people. And online is a fantastic medium, and it is an effective medium, and it's so cost efficient. You know, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is accountability for advertisers. So there's a certain category of advertisers that certainly do use it and use it very well. But by the mass, no, it's certainly not a medium. And I think to some degree, marketers are a bit scared of it because sometimes that accountability can be a little bit too daunting because it is that, you can know to the person, the number of people, individuals who've actually accessed your site.
Stone, you actually said that too many South African marketers are still not taking new media that seriously. So what is the outcome? What should they be doing? Well,
it's possibly wrong. I mean, yes, we're about 2 or 3 years behind the rest of the world in terms of internet usage and access. And even in the African continent, we're not the leaders. We're about number 5 in terms of internet access. But to a large degree, the blame should rest with the government, because the government has failed to provide us with broadband cheaply and fast broadband. And even with this new CCAM cable, we're still only going to have about half the speed that they have in the United Kingdom. So that's the number one entity to blame, I think, is the government is just not taking it seriously. Once people can use broadband cheaply and fast broadband, it'll explode. The usage will just go sky high. It's already going terrifically fast.
And Tony, just to bring it back to the relevance of then the conventional TV platform as being still relevant, is it still relevant?
Well, I think it is. The point about, and it's not losing its relevance. Every time a new medium comes in, it doesn't kill the old media. It merely takes away a certain percentage of the market, and they all lose a bit of percentage. But they could still grow on. They could become bigger, even though their percentage of the total is declining. And
so what you're trying to say is don't don't take away traditional media,
No,
but don't ignore new media.
No,
Am I right by saying that?
You certainly can't take away traditional media. We need traditional media.
That's right.
And new media adds value to traditional media to a very large degree, and you work the two in synergy with one another.
Right.
If we suddenly did away with television advertising, believe me, the retailers in this country would not sell anything. They would be absolutely distraught. So TV advertising is never going to die. What has to change, and I'm sure Tony will agree with me here, is possibly the way we do it. You can't. If you look at the way television advertising is put onto schedules nowadays by TV stations, you look at a break, an ad break, you will find 7 or 8 different commercials in that break, one after the other. Now, let's face it, as human beings, we can only take in so much.
Yes.
So your ad has to be that much more relevant to the person that you're trying to reach.
That's right.
Or it has to be more entertaining than the next ad.
To break through the clutter.
We're going to have to adapt to a different way of doing things like they do in Australia and places like that, where all of a sudden you don't have only 4 breaks in a 1-hour program. I think they do something like 8, which would drive viewers in this country completely mad, because every 5 or 6 minutes you would take an ad break. Can you imagine that? Wouldn't that be awful?
Oh, I'm not sure whether I like the sound of that at all.
Me neither. So that would be the only way to shorten those ad breaks, so to make them more punchy.
Virginia, have you seen new media trends of late that you could share with us?
New media trends. I think that new media is one of those fascinating areas that changes so rapidly. I mean, every single day there's something new that comes out, and I go, oh my goodness, don't think I can cope with any more of these things. But there's always new stuff that comes out. I mean, Facebook came out not that long ago, and it's already been pushed to the side, and you've got Twitter, and then you've got other new stuff that's coming in, which my digital guys tell me about, and I go, oh, I think I've got overload now. I mean, my brain is so overloaded with what's new. You start to push it to one side and go, I don't want to take in anymore. Can we please come down and slow down? Let us all absorb it all, and we can make it work properly. Because one of the things I think is a problem with new media is that there is so much new that comes into the market that none of us really get to grips with what you can do with it. Because by the time you sort of got to grips with it, off you're off in another tangent because something else has come along.
Then the question I want to ask Virginia, did we see an uptake due to the global credit crisis, an uptake in new media? From advertisers?
Yeah, I think you might have found that would have happened because it's a much more cost-effective medium. It doesn't cost you as much to produce for it or to place the ads on there. And as I said to you earlier, it's highly accountable. You can count every single click that you've had on your site. And that makes it extremely accountable to clients, and clients like that.
Tony, there must be surely then challenges that have been hindering sort of the huge uptake that we would have expected, particularly in Africa, where you're looking at Nigeria, for example, Kenya, for example, South Africa, when you compare those African countries. What are the challenges?
Well, just to link up to the point that was made earlier, Twitter is an example. I'm sorry, I'm just not answering your question exactly, but I just thought this was a point worth making. Twitter is an example. Is it the world's biggest user of Twitter? And that shows you that despite the fact that we're way behind the more advanced nations of the world, in some areas we're doing pretty well. And as Martin Sorrell says, the future is here, it's just unevenly distributed. In some areas we're way ahead of the game, and some we're way behind. Now, to come back to your question about the challenge, the newspaper business has suffered the most from the onset of the new media. And no one's quite sure what to do about it, but they're closing down venerable old newspapers in the United States, left, right and centre. But those that have found the best solution, the best answer to this challenge, have redefined themselves as not newspapers anymore, but branded media brands. So the New York Times, for example, has an online, they build a website and they do a whole series of online things, all kinds of services that you can't do in a newspaper that are instant and interactive. You can go there and find out the stock prices of a minute ago. And what they do is they use their name online. So it's the New York Times Online, which is a name that people trust and respect. So gradually they move into the new arena, and gradually they downgrade their effort in the old traditional media. But what they've got to do is they've got to make sure that this transition is managed so that as you move out of the one, you move into the other. But the old one is still a big one.